Hey everyone, I'm Mike and thanks for checking out the channel. Today we're going to do one of my list videos that I do where I did different lists of Metallica albums, different list of like rock bands that I think are coming up and coming that are going to be on headliners. And today we did one that was kind of I did one that was a little bit kind of fun. I went to ChatGPT AI and I asked it one simple question. ChatGPT, who are the top 10 greatest guitar players of all time? And it gave me a list of 10 people. And I'm going to kind of go through the list, just talk a little bit about them, and then I'm going to give my opinion afterwards where I think it may be doing something wrong. It is AI, so we can't accept that it's AI. But what AI is basically doing is it is going through a list of all the people's lists that had put together top 10 lists or top 100 lists. It's taking those, adding those all in by average, and then coming up with who is the top 10 guitarist of all of those. So, play my intro. We're going to come back, and we are going to check out this list, and then we can have a discussion about it. I'm curious to hear in the comments what you guys think, and I'm going to give you what I think, because there's some things that I think are a little wrong in this. So, let's play the intro.
Jesus Christ. That's Mike's musical rehab.
All right, so we're back here. We're going to take a look at this list. And what kind of sucks is, and it's just like if you've been watching Rick Beato's videos, and a bunch of them, is you wish you could play clips with these artists. Problem is, when you're doing a top 10 list and you're playing 10, that puts 10 different opportunities for the music group to put a strike on the video and block the video. So basically, we're just going to put up an image, talk about that guitar player, and then kind of go to the next one. I wish we could do that. I could claim fair use, like I said, but going through the legal channels of that, someone like the bigger channels can fight those things. But I'm not worried about it taking away the monetization. I'm worried about them blocking the whole video, which they have done on multiple occasions. So, all right, we're going to come down. This was ChatGPT's number 10 guitar player, and that guitar player is the ageless, always has looked kind of 90 years old since he was 15 years old, and that person is none other than Keith Richards. Their number 10 pick, the guitarist from the Rolling Stones. You know, he's done solo stuff, kind of been around forever, and they had him at number 10 as they believed he is the 10th best guitar player. So what I'm going to say about that is, in my opinion, and this is just me, I could find 10 other guitar players that I feel are better than Keith Richards. I like Keith Richards, and to be fair, not an overwhelmingly huge Rolling Stones fan. For some reason, I love my classic rock. I just didn't click with them as I did with other bands. So it just wasn't my kind of thing fully, but I do like some of their songs, and I get the importance that he's had on the guitar community. But I think some of these sometimes are nostalgia, and at the end of this video, I'm going to explain more why I feel like that. So we'll go through them more quickly instead of spending a bunch of time on each one. But Keith Richards in at number 10 from the Rolling Stones, and we are going to take that one down, and we are going to go with number 9. And number 9 is a guy that I kind of feel, even on list, is kind of grossly underrated, because if you actually listen to his guitar parts and what he's done, he is an incredible guitar player. And I am talking about none other than the founder of Rainbow and one of the starting members of Deep Purple, and that is Ritchie Blackmore. You know, very eccentric, has a lot of issues with a lot of people, seems like never gets along with anyone that well, but Ritchie Blackmore, the stuff in Deep Purple is absolutely incredible. Love his playing. You know, he plays a scallop neck guitar, which I just kind of love that's insanely awesome that he's out there rocking out on a scallop neck guitar. But his solos, everything he's done, I mean, Highway Star, come on. That's just absolutely incredible and just rocks so hard. So Number 9, they threw Richie Blackmore in there. So, like I said at the end, I'm going to talk about this list a little bit more. Go out, take him out, take Keith Richards out, who's in the background there. All right, we moved them both. Number 8, the man known for his absolutely melodic solos that are just beautiful and haunting. Such a great voice, too. Second member, I consider it really the two main members of Pink Floyd, and that is none other than, when I say Pink Floyd, David Gilmour. His solo in Comfortable Numb is just absolutely incredible. He has like a haunting, like he's not a shredder player or anything like that, but that's not his forte. He is a melodic champion of solos, and they are just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful solos. So David Gilmour is someone that I would have in my top 10 list. I'm a big fan of Pink Floyd. I've seen them live when I was super young, but absolutely great band, absolutely great guitar player. I don't think, it's kind of funny, like Pink Floyd's one of those bands, when you split Roger Waters and David Gilmour together, neither was as good without the other, but I do feel like Gilmour was a little bit better than Waters without the other, and Waters was really the guy that wrote all the albums. So it was really like, I think David Gilmour's contribution obviously to Pink Floyd was absolutely monstrous. So loved it. Love David Gilmour. We are now going to go into number 7. Number 7's one that, I'll be honest, if I was picking, would not have in my top 10 list, but could be in a top 10 list of another list. And this is the person that's a classic rock legend, was out there ever since. We all know, like, basically coming out from Johnny B. Good, and that is Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry just kind of had that duck walk that he did and kind of played the hollow body guitar. Just absolutely kind of like really cool riffs back then, was doing something innovative. And Chuck Berry, I could find other guitar players ahead of them. And this is going to be my problem with the list when it's over, what I feel like about the list. But I'm a huge fan of Chuck Berry's stuff. I love it. It was so influential, such from my dad bringing Chuck Berry's music to me. Really, really always was a fan, but I will go into detail at the end what I think kind of on this list where it goes awry. All right, number 6. I've seen this guy 4 times in concert, and I'm going to say off the bat when I say him, my issue with this one right here, because I do think he's incredible, and I think his influence and what he did for blues music was absolutely huge, and that is B.B. King. Okay, so this one I will go off on a little bit from that marker. I think B.B. King's phenomenal. I love his style of music, and I've seen him multiple times, like I said. But when I did see him, there was an opener to that I actually think was the better guitar player, and someone I think was more influential on that time period, especially was a huge influence for Jimi Hendrix. And at this point, because he didn't make the top 10 list, who I would have had in B.B. King's position would have been Buddy Guy. But I get it. B.B. King's so iconic for what he's done in the blues music. We know playing that old like 335 kind of Lucille Gibson guitar. Absolutely incredible. He was so good live, and his voice is amazing. He had such an amazing blues voice, and I loved seeing some of his later stuff when he was playing with Derek Trucks and like John Mayer and stuff. Was really, really cool. So absolutely incredible. So B.B. King, I will explain in the end, like I said, about it, but I might have put Buddy Guy in over on this one. So you can let me know in the comments if I'm an idiot, which I usually am, so that's fine. But B.B. King, number 6. Now, number 5 is a guy that, if I'm being all honesty, for me, in my life, from where I was at, I could almost put him at number 1 for his influence, but I understand the guy at number 1 because I would put him, too, could see putting him at number 1, and everyone on here who's sitting here knows who number 1 is. It's always the same person that's number 1, but this guy at number 5, people considered kind of a clone of the number 1 artist. I won't say his name, but He was absolutely incredible. I got to see him live twice. I am so happy I got to see him live. In my high school picture, I always mention I was wearing 4 shirts, like in each picture, my freshman, sophomore, junior, senior pictures, and they were different Guitar Legend shirts. I would always wear a Guitar Legend one. One was Jimmy Page. One was Randy Rhoads. One was Jimi Hendrix, and the last one that was on there, which was one of my favorites, is this guy right here, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray Vaughan, just his ability to absolutely crush just on live performances where he would just improvise. He would have set points where you knew little parts from the solo that he would hit, but every live recording there was something different and amazing that he did. He could just keep going on with a killer solo forever, and he was just an absolute pleasure to watch, taken way too soon from us in that horrific helicopter crash. Just an absolute inspiration to me musically, so yeah, definitely would have been high on my list. So 5 is fine. I would say that's fine, especially going in for me. It's my influence. He's up there with really the other people on this list. So the other couple people, and I understand all the other couple people. And the one at 2 will be a little more that I'll mention on why I think it's a little different. But here we go. The number 4, and I think this is too low for him if you're overall talking about influence. I actually think he should be in the number 2 spot, and some people would argue he could be in the number 1 spot, and that's not just saying from influence from me. I'm thinking this is music in whole. The whole group of musicians would say very much up there, and that is Edward Van Halen, man. Come on, this guy was so innovative. What he did inspired a whole generation of musicians that just absolutely, he was so innovative with the guitar, and what it was for him that made him so cool was before he was a guitar player, he was actually a very accomplished classical pianist, and he took that whole thing that he did and translated it to guitar, and that's why you got those really cool rhythms and really cool guitar parts that you were like, man, this isn't the standard cowboy chords. He's really going down the neck and exploring the entire fretboard, and I think he's someone that you could have had. I think you could have swapped some of these people, and I'll get into that a little bit later as we go up. But number 4, Edward Van Halen, absolutely influenced my life. So I was not wearing a Guitar Legends one for Edward Van Halen because they did not have one at the store when I bought it. So let's go here. Number 3, I cannot argue with this at all. And I think in most circumstances, 3 is exactly where I would have him on this list. And really, really, really incredible. I would picture him being 3 overall. Not saying from just my perspective, but of all guitar players that was influenced. And that was the tone. The man that originally started with the Yardbirds and then took it over and went into Led Zeppelin, and that is the one and only king of the double neck, man, Jimmy Page. What made Jimmy Page so great with Led Zeppelin is his exploration of tunings. Like, he tuned his guitar to weird tunings. Like, I play the Rain song all the time, and it's in a weird, like, E minor 7th tuning, but it just works. It makes these haunting rhythms that are absolutely incredible, and I so influenced by Jimmy Page. And what I love about Jimmy Page is, like, as a studio musician, he did really cool stuff, but he was kind of what people call like a sloppy player. Like, people consider like Slash a sloppy player. When he played, it was really not everything to perfection in the notes, but what he was playing had so much heart behind it and so much brilliance in its abilities to go to different keys and different sounds and chord changes. Absolutely phenomenal. No problem at all with Jimmy Page being number 3 on this list. So this is always the controversial one at number 2 because people kind of say maybe they feel like he's overrated, and it's funny because I just seen him live September 11th, Thursday in Cleveland at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and that's a phenomenal guitar player in the fact that he does kind of one thing, but that one thing he does incredible. But not where I would have him on the list for me of all-time guitar players, even though I think he's phenomenal. That person is Eric Clapton. This one's always controversial because a lot of people in the guitar community are like, yeah, he does that thing, but he's always in the pentatonic scale and playing kind of that same kind of blues lick. But what he does phenomenally well. You know, I think there's stuff in this world that, like, you could look at Eddie Van Halen, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that Eddie Van Halen does that Eric Clapton couldn't do, but if Eddie Van Halen tried to replicate what Eric Clapton was doing in his kind of blues style, I don't think that would be done. I just think he's really good at what he did, but I'll go into the issue of where I would have maybe had him on this list. If I was thinking all-time list, I would have put Stevie Ray Vaughan above him, and don't kill me for that. That's me. And I would have had Eddie Van Halen above him. I would have actually moved Eddie, if I'm saying all time, like I said, Stevie Ray Vaughan could be one of my favorites. But if I was thinking of the list logically from other people, I would move Eddie to 2, Jimmy Page stay at 3, Stevie Ray Vaughan at 4, and Eric Clapton at 5. That would be my list if I was thinking all people. But if I was going by strictly me, this whole list would be different. It would be a lot different because I'll get into that after the number one. And the number one, without a shadow of a doubt, come on. Nobody's got to think about this. If you went through the top 10 list and this name is not in here, one of the most influential people of all time, Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock, you know, stuff he did in his solo albums from Access as Bold as Love, Electric Ladyland, and then going into the whole, like, Band of Gypsy stuff, that is the one and only, man, Jimi Hendrix. The upside-down Fender Stratocaster, he was the man. Started off playing guitar with Little Richard and went from there on to his own thing, and you often hear Little Richard talk about how he feels bad because he feels like it was his tour that got Jimmy into drugs and stuff like that, but absolute brilliant guitar player. And I'm not going to lie, I love this list because I do so many other lists, and it's stuff that I'm not 100% like sure on. Like, I'm not so well versed that I always have to have like Wikipedia open on the side just to read stuff. But when it comes to guitar players, I've been a guitar player forever. I love guitar, so this was easy to do, to talk about all these musicians because I'm so versed in their catalogs. I love all the stuff that these people have done. So it was great getting to do this top 10 list that ChatGPT picked out and said that, you know, hey, Jimi Hendrix number one. And I think in most lists, when you look, Jimi Hendrix is going to be number one. So we're going to come to the conclusion of this. And here's where the conclusion comes in for me that I think I'm going to say. I don't consider this list a list of the top 10 greatest guitar players of all time. To me, this list could have been listed as top 10 most influential guitar players of all time. You know, because there's something to be said for B.B. King and Chuck Berry and basically Eric Clapton, you know, even if you're throwing in Keith Richards, there's something to be said for the influence that they had on other guitar players. But if you're talking about the sheer, just absolutely ability to play, yeah, I mean, you're looking at a lot of musicians in there from Joe Satriani to Steve Vai. John Five is a guy that I think is absolutely incredible. Brandon Ellis, who was just recently in Black Dahlia Murder. There's so many metal players out there and stuff like that right now. Dean Lamb from Archspire. If you go into that metal community, there are so many people that are just so technically crazy ability on guitar that, you know, I think people look at it. Even, you know, Yngwie, who had his whole inspiration doing a lot of like, if you asked Yngwie, he'd be number one on this list. But it's Randy Rhoads, you know, is someone I would have in this list. It's that I think they're going by influential because there are people like, if you're asking me who's a better guitar player if they were standing up there, Eric Clapton or Steve Vai, I'm probably going to say Steve Vai 100% of the time because Steve Vai is just absolutely incredible. I think people get lost in the technical aspect of it, and maybe they're like, oh, it doesn't have the heart and soul or the feel. You know, you can say that maybe, but their technical ability, the time it took and the skill it took to learn how to do what they're doing is absolutely incredible. And I just think that people overlook that. they think it's always got to go way back to the past, and that brings back the influence, that they were influential on people. But it's now to a point where someone like Steve Vai's been so influential to a ton of people. I mean, he was playing with Frank Zappa back in the day, and definitely it leaves out a lot of people because they're leaving out. It's impossible, to be honest with you, to have a top 10 list is impossible, because depending on your style of music, if you're a strict like metalhead, there are so many great bands out there. Lorna Shore, I can't think of the guitar player from there, but absolutely just crushing it. And they'll like look at people playing like Sweep Picking and they'll go, oh, well, you know, it doesn't have the heart of a good blues solo, but you know what? It also is really difficult to do. A lot of times when I hear people that are guitar players go, boy, that Sweep Picking doesn't have life in it. It's like, well, maybe you just didn't take the time to learn Sweep Picking, because it's really difficult to do. So, you know, that's my whole thing with this list. I can agree with a lot, and I see what, as influential musicians, absolutely, I definitely think of it. But there's a whole bunch of people that I could see in this top 10 list. It's impossible, like I said, to have an actual top 10 list, because there's just so many great guitar players out there doing so much great stuff. Are you going to tell me, like, if you're putting, I love Richie Blackmore on there, but are you telling me if you put Richie Blackmore up against Marty Friedman or someone, Marty Friedman's insanely talented, what he does. It's incredible. So, yeah, it's tough to do this, but ChatGPT, you threw it out there. You took from everybody's list and created the top 10 list of every list, basically. And this is what we got. So let's go back over them, and we will do them real quick. Number 10, Keith Richards. Number 9, Richie Blackmore. Number 8, David Gilmour. Number 7, Chuck Berry. Number 6, B.B. King. Number 5, we're going here, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Rest in peace, man. One of my favorites. Number 4, Eddie Van Halen. Number 3, here, Jimmy Page. Number 2, Eric Clapton. Number 1, Jimi Hendrix. And even in that sense, like, if you were asking me, even from that, and this is my problem, like I said, I love Clapton, just seeing him live. If you were asking me who was better in that time period between Clapton and Jeff Beck, I think Jeff Beck may be the more technically better guitar player, but, you know, that's just me. I guess I'm one of the people in the group that thinks maybe Clapton, I don't think he's overrated. I think he's right kind of where he should be, like, talked about, of how great what he does in his field of music, but I think there's other people that I think I'm a bigger fan of, like they're playing, but it's what it is, and that's my list. So, as I always say, music makes life better. Thanks for checking out the channel. You know, if you're climbing up, reach down, pull somebody up with you, and I will see you guys all in the next video. You have an amazing, amazing, amazing night. And please like and subscribe and leave your comments down below on who you think would be in the top 10 list, or who would be your top 10 guitar players. So I will see you all later. Bye.